Alright, here we go. Welcome back to the Game Smash Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Room Liberty, and with me is...
Fawaz Muhammad Yusuf.
And today we got some stuff. We got Nintendo is releasing a mini NES with 30 built-in games. We've got Darkrai, a new Pokemon added to Pokken. We got Killer Instinct, new character revealed. We got Dizzy gets added to Guilty Gear for free. And Evo Japan becomes a thing. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we played this week. So Monster Hunter Generations came out, and I played a lot of it, and I was having a lot of fun with it. It's kind of interesting because this is the Monster Hunter I was kind of really excited for, because this is like nostalgia Monster Hunter, in which like you get to revisit like places from the very first Monster Hunter. You know what I mean? Or like Monster Hunter 2 and whatnot. So this is sort of like, oh, cool, I'm revisiting these old areas and whatnot. And you get to see characters from the older games that are returned into this one. And I really like that. And I like the attention to detail where it's like, yep, they're using the exact same like little sound effects when they talk. This is accurate. This is great. The Hunter styles and Hunter arts are absolutely fantastic. We talked about a little about this on a podcast a long time ago, but basically you get to choose from different arts, which is like, do you want a more heavy-hitting like move style, which is like, you know, your charge moves charge up faster and whatnot, but you're more limited to your moves, or do you want a aerial style in which, and this is my favorite one, in which your dodge roll gets changed with more like a dodge hop. And what you can do is that if you're close enough to the monster, you can actually dodge hop and bounce off the monster to do like a leaping attack.
Okay.
So it's really fun to just like, and you can also do this off other players. So this is an amazing thing where you'll have like another player like run towards the monster, you'll run towards them, dodge hop on top of them, launch yourself into the air, and then do an aerial slice. And it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of customizable stuff. Like each weapon gets their own like customizable arts and whatnot. And like some of them are pretty awesome. Like one of them is literally a Shoryuken. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I know. I like. There's small things that I think they've done to the game that I think has really improved it. Like for example, sometimes when you have to do gathering quests, you know, you fill up your entire item bag, and then it's like, well, shit, now I have to end a quest, right? Because I can't bring anything more. Well, now what they've added is this guy at the main camp when you start a mission, where if you talk to him, he'll send stuff back, like once, right? So what you can do is you can fill up your bag, go back to the little camp, give him all the stuff. He'll send it back to your base, and then you can just fill up your stuff again. So that's like a really nice quality of life kind of thing, especially when you want to gather. There's two things, though, that I'm not a huge fan of. One of the things is that it feels like this. It feels weird because I feel like every other Monster Hunter does a pretty good job of like introducing the monster, right? You get a cool little cutscene, there's some music or whatnot, almost like, you know, like an introduction to like a Dark Souls boss. You know, you get like a cool cutscene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Monster Hunter has always been pretty good at this, but for whatever reason, they ran out of time, or they just didn't have I don't know what happened, but they're just shitty. They're just so shitty in this one. Like it's just like the screen just goes to like a letterbox, and then it's like it zooms in on the creature, it does maybe one thing, and then it just gives you the name of the creature. And I'm like, that's not as cool as what you guys did like in the last game. So I'm like, it feels like kind of a downgrade, which kind of sucks.
Okay.
And the other thing that I can't even begin to wrap my head around is that the way that stats work in this game, like weapon stats, is kind of fucked. And I don't know how to properly describe this, but basically, at least from what I can tell, and I might have this wrong because the game does not fully explain this, is that all the weapons have their base like level this is how much damage they're gonna do, but they don't really tell you how much damage they can do. It's just like a scale. And I know it sounds really complicated, but basically it's like for example, you have a greatsword, right? And a greatsword should do tons of damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a short sword, which should also do like small damage but fast, right? Now the problem is that when you start the game, they both have 100 damage. Like the stat says that this weapon does 100 damage, and that just doesn't make any sense, right? Why does a greatsword deal the same amount of damage that a small sword does, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. And apparently that's not actually the case. It actually does do more damage. It's just the game doesn't tell you it. But you see what I mean? It's just like this really complicated. Like I don't understand why they changed the numbers from the other games.
Yeah.
It's really hard to explain, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, but other than that, it's still a really, really fun game. The other thing I did, you lent me your Vita, and I had fun. I had to like do a little bit of setting up or whatnot because it wouldn't actually let me play a bunch of the games. Because I need internet connection to confirm.
Okay.
So I had to do the wireless thing and whatnot. But once I got that all set up, I played some Dragon's Crown. And that's a pretty fun game. The art in that game is absolutely gorgeous. That's Vanillaware for you. I do feel like I was a little bit bummed out because I was like, man, this game seems like it would be a lot of fun if I had other people to play it with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I sunk like 70 hours into that game without like solo.
Yeah.
I sunk like a good 70 hours into that game solo, so you can still have fun with the game.
I was about to say I got to a point where I was like, okay, I see where you could get some enjoyment, get some more enjoyment out of this. Where it's like you can hire people to join you, and I guess they're like CPU controlled.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Why? What's wrong with that?
Because the AI is terrible, and then on top of that, similar to Dark Souls, when you take on AI people, the enemies become tougher. Yeah. So don't do that. Actually, I beat most of the game solo, and it was cool. I played mostly the archer. What class were you thinking about playing?
I'm playing the knight right now. Because I was looking at the difficulty, and I heard that this game could get really complicated. So I was like, I'm gonna just play the knight and just have fun with that. And the knight, I really like when you jump in the air and you swing your sword, and you just sort of float down. Like I really like that move. So I was having a lot of fun with that. It's interesting because the game looks great. The game runs really well. And I guess that's the one thing that I can always say about the Vita had over the 3DS is that the games they look better and they run better than the 3DS. It's just the library's just not there.
Yeah. It's actually a pity because it was a while ago where Sony had Dragon's Crown for PS3 for free, but I never downloaded it because I had it on the Vita. I was like, what use do I have for it on PS3? However, if I had, because there's crossplay between Vita and PS3, maybe we could have played together. Well. I just gotta wait for Dragon's Crown too.
Yeah, I guess so. Or that new Vanillaware game, 13 Sentinels. But that's what I did this week. What about you, Fawaz?
Oh, well, we did a little bit of a trade. I gave you my Vita, and you gave me Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
So, I played Dark Souls 3. I actually made a Let's Play of the first couple of sections. I'm still uploading that. But I made it relative. I didn't make it too far. I beat 2 bosses. So, I beat that first boss, the one with the sword through his chest.
I think Gundyr.
Yeah, he was really easy. Yeah. And then I met the it's like a dog in a big suit of armor.
Yeah, that's Vort.
I beat him too. It took me a couple of tries. The issue, his first phase was so easy. It was so brain dead easy. Then his second phase starts, and he starts moving so fast that it causes slowdown. The game starts to lose frame. No, I'm not gonna blame me getting hit on that exclusively because he was really hard to dodge. He becomes so fast.
In this game, I don't even know if this is the case with Bloodborne as well, but I think it's similar. Is that the bosses have stages, right? So it's always usually the first stage is usually not too bad, but then you get to the second stage, and that's when shit gets real.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I'm having issue with right now is that the game is a lot slower, right? Than Bloodborne and practically every other like hack and slash I've played. So the roll is a lot slower than Bloodborne's roll, and then it's also like learning when do I roll, when do I block. Like the whole blocking thing is so unnatural for me, right? Because like you couldn't block in Bloodborne, you can't block in Devil May Cry, and you could block in Ninja Gaiden, but I don't recommend it. So you couldn't block in Bayonetta. If you could, I don't know how to. Because
well, it's also another thing just to point out is that you may want to be careful about your weapon loadout and your equipment load, because it does affect your dodge.
Yeah. I saw that. So if I was playing like a heavy knights type character, then I guess I'll rely more on blocking. And that's one thing that I want to give the game credit for. For now, anyway. Like I don't know down the line, but I see that there's a lot of potential for like a wide variety of playstyles.
Yes.
So a lot more than Bloodborne. So I'm definitely gonna tip my hat to them for that. One other cool thing is that I can just sit at a bonfire and heal. I don't have to actually, transform back to the hunter's dream. And then the other thing is that I don't have to I don't have to teleport to Firelink Shrine to teleport to other locations.
Yes.
Which was one thing in Bloodborne that just never made any sense to me at all. So hats off to them for those couple of things. But overall, I'm liking the game. It's like I said, the combat. I'm still getting used to how slow and clunky the combat is.
It's different. Like it's very different, and like the thing about it though is that it does allow for a lot more different play styles. Like a lot for most people. I have to admit, for most people, when they're getting their feet wet into Dark Souls, they're gonna be doing a couple dodges and blocking a lot of hits. Like that's just the reality. But then you get into the more high level stuff where you can start making crazier builds where it's like full on dodge, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get more like that's the biggest thing that I always enjoyed about the Dark Souls more than Bloodborne. Is another thing is that there's just more weapons and more experimentation, so you're not limited to like, okay, well now I'm just gonna use this weapon and there's no other weapons in the game.
Yeah, I already have my samurai sword, so that was funny.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so funny because there was this like samurai dude. He's very close to Firelink Shrine.
Yeah, and the master, I think, is what they.
Yeah. The first time I fought him, he beat me because I just couldn't like. Yeah, he just beat me, and and then the second time I fought him, I looked over, he attacks me, I dodge, and then he's like close to the edge, and my eyes just light up. I sprint towards it, and I'm like, this is Sparta! And I kick him off the edge, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. And I got it on tape, too, so yeah.
Yeah, nice, because honestly, most people, that's the only way they beat him. They push him off the edge.
But yeah, overall, man, I'm enjoying the game. I played it a little bit before we started recording the podcast. One thing that's kind of tough is just figuring out like what everything is now, because like it's like, okay, so these lost souls are like blood vials. I also like the Estus flask. I like the fact that you can never actually run out. I like that.
Yes.
Because there were times in Bloodborne where I keep trying to beat a boss and I keep using blood vials, and then it gets to the point where I'm just actually out of them.
That was actually another thing that I was like, it bummed me out, because I was like, what was that one DLC boss that I could never beat? The Ludwig, right?
Oh, you mean the first one?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't beat him, and the thing that was annoying was that I would attempt it, and I would slowly get farther and farther, but then I'd be like, oh, well, now I'm out of blood vials, so now I gotta spend like 30 minutes farming out souls to get blood vials, because I keep dying.
Or you could just farm blood vials.
Well, yeah, you could farm blood vials, but I think Alex talked about this. If you keep farming in the same area for blood vials, they stop dropping them. I do know that.
There was a guy right in front of where you fight Ludwig. He was one of, how they have all these big piles of dead bodies. He was like banging on the cage. If you killed him, he dropped 5. So yeah, you could just kill him, reset, kill him, reset, kill him, reset, and you could farm there. But we digress. I also like the fact that you can like, because you have the Estus Flash that heals you, and then you have the one that fills up your like blue bar.
Yeah,
you can balance it out. Be like, okay, I want it to be like, you have 6 uses, for example, and then you can be like, okay, I want 4 to be for my healing and 2 to be for my like mana. Like right now, everything is on healing for me because I don't use mana at all.
Yeah.
I'm also using like a warrior, like he's like a Nordic dude. He's got a battle axe and a shield, and So far, man, Dark Souls 3 is it's looking pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. It hasn't. It's not because one thing was that when I was playing Bloodborne, people always like, because first of all, people always like, oh, the Soul series is so hard, right? And I played Bloodborne, I was like, this game is really not that difficult. Y'all are just bad. And people were like, oh no. Bloodborne is easy compared to Dark Souls. So then I start playing Dark Souls, and I'm like, this game is really not that hard. Y'all are just bad.
I will, like, here's the thing, though. Like,
I know someone's going to tell me that, no, Dark Souls 3 is the easiest of the 3.
It is. Like, it is sad to say that, yeah, out of all the Dark Souls 3 is the least hard. And you think it would be the opposite. You think it would be, like, Dark Souls 3 would be the hardest, you know what I mean? Like, Dark Souls 1 was easy in comparison. Like, honestly, like, I feel like Dark Souls 2 was kind of in some ways the hardest, but it was hardest because all the enemies had tracking overheads, and that was pretty brutal because it made dodging just a million times harder. But I still think that there were parts of Dark Souls 1 that were like just get wrecked, like levels of hard. Like Capper Demon in particular is one of the hardest bosses I've ever had to fight, because the boss room itself is the size of like a living room.
Well, I mean, if we're talking like just one boss, yeah, like what's it called, Amidala in the not the actual Amidala, the one that you fight in the Chalice dungeon. Yeah, there's one version of her that's horrible, absolutely horrible. I got so angry during that boss battle, I gave myself a migraine for the very reason you're listing. I mean, you fought Amidala, right? You see how long her arms are. So now imagine fighting her inside a tiny little chalice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, I swear to God, I better never meet the person that designed this boss.
But that's what I mean, is that in some ways it's not that bad, because I've beaten the game obviously, and I feel like every boss in this game is like fair, like it's doable. Like it's difficult to a certain extent, but it's doable. I never got to a boss in this game where I was like, oh, just fuck this, like like come on, like levels of like difficulty.
Yeah, there were so many Chalice dungeon bosses that I said that to my. Apparently, the Chalice dungeons were designed by people that made Dark Souls 2, so I guess it all makes sense.
Yeah, right? Like. And that's the sad thing, is it's like, it's the B team. Like, there's a B team for the Dark Souls, and there's an A team, and usually the A team stuff is just a lot better. And it's sad because it's like, I don't think the B team stuff is necessarily bad. It's just in comparison to the A team stuff, it's just really not as good. But either way, I like, you don't worry. There's going to be some harder bosses down the line.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I have no doubt. But let's get into some news.
Yeah.
So Nintendo revealed a mini NES coming the 11th of November, and it's going to cost $60. It'll have 30 built-in games, HDMI support. It'll have no ability to link to the internet, so it's going to have 30, and that's it. You're going to be able to download more.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how this is going to be received, because on one hand, it's a really cool idea on paper, like a little nostalgia machine that you can, it's really small too, so you can carry it around with you, just go to your friend's place, plug it in, and, play some old school games. On the other hand, we have so many emulators. Like, I can get an NES emulator on my cell phone, so now this is mainly like nerdy shit, right? So I guess like the masses don't really know about emulators and all that stuff. So I guess this is something for I guess this might work with the masses. But yeah, I just don't. I'm not sure. Yeah, because like I said, on one hand, there's the nostalgia and there's the nostalgia crew, and it's only $60. It's a really good price point. But like I said, on the other hand, it's 25-year-old video games.
Yeah.
A lot of which didn't age very well. So
well, some of them, yeah, no, I totally know what you mean, but I think there's a couple things that I think are that push this thing in its favor. One is that it's if you don't want to use your PC, because guess what, like most emulators are on the PC.
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't want to do that and you would rather have like a physical thing, this is more up your alley. The other thing that this does is that one, it has HDMI support, so that's great, and it also has, more importantly, has suspend points. So that's a pretty big deal. That it's a good thing.
What does that mean?
Well, suspend points are basically like you can save states. Because
you don't have to use passwords.
You don't have to use passwords. So that's, I think, a very important thing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is also pretty cool about this is that if you don't want to do the just get everything for free emulator thing, which I understand, like some people, you want to do that, and that's fine. This is still a really good bang for your buck, because most of these games on the virtual console cost up to like $5 to $10. So considering that you're getting 30 of these games for $60, and you're getting a cool little classic controller, which can actually be used with the Wii controller on the Wii U if you so choose. It's a really good bang for your buck. Like, I think this is actually a pretty good bang for your buck if you're looking for something like this.
Yeah. I actually just realized something else, though, is that it's an NES. It's a mini NES, not a mini SNES. So
it's not a Super NES.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because, like, I rarely ever acknowledge the NES at all. It's like, when they say, the original Nintendo console, my mind immediately goes to the SNES. Mm-hmm. And then, I was looking at the list of games, and I was like, I don't even know half these games, and that's why, right? I've never played an NES.
Really?
My first, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, the first console I played was a SNES, so maybe that's why I'm even more biased now, because for me, like, the nostalgia would be, okay, if I could play like Super Street Fighter 2, if I could play like I can't think of anything else.
That very long list.
Was Smash Brothers on the SNES, or did they start on the
No. Smash Brothers was on the 64, man.
Yeah. You see, honestly, if they had a mini 64...
I'm trying to imagine what Smash Brothers on the SNES would be like.
If they had a mini 64, I'd probably buy that. Because, GoldenEye, Smash Brothers, Turok, Mario Kart. But, like, with the NES, I don't see them, like,
I'd have to disagree. Because there are a ton of games on the NES, and they've listed some of them, like Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 2, Super Mario Brothers, Castlevania, the first Final Fantasy. Like, there is a good, and I think that's also a good point, is that they have a good round list of games. Like, it's not just like platformer. It's like, here's a platformer. Here's a game like Legend of Zelda. Here's an RPG like Final Fantasy. Stuff like that. So I don't know.
But yeah, like you see, the issue I have with the list, right? And this is what I realized when I was reading the list, is that it was never the ideal version of the game, right? Like they have Legend of Zelda 2, but they don't have A Link Between Worlds, and they don't have Ocarina of Time, right? You feel me? They have Castlevania, but they don't have Symphony of the Night. Like, I think, is Metroid on this?
Metroid's on this, yeah.
Metroid's on this, but not Metroid 2, right? Was it Metroid 2 that was the shit? Which I can't remember which Metroid is the like really really definitely not the first. Like, the first Metroid, for example, is a perfect example of why my excitement is gradually going down for this, because the first Metroid did not age well at all. In fact, most people would argue that the first Metroid is not very good anymore. If you actually play it now.
Well, yeah, in comparison to to comparison to like the newer, more updated versions.
Well, no, because like there's some games that age well. I can still play Street Fighter 2 to this day. You know, I played GoldenEye like last year. I played GoldenEye, and sure, there's some things that didn't age well, obviously, like the graphics. But in general, the core gameplay still ages. You know, like Ocarina of Time, the core gameplay still ages well. It's the reason why Nintendo have been like jacking Ocarina of Time's gameplay for so long. Right? Yeah. You know, they have the first Final Fantasy here, but I mean, who cares about like? Okay, no, that's not fair.
That's that's what I mean. Is that like for some people, like this is the problem, is that there's a particular audience that for this kind of thing, and it's like, there's going to be some people like, well, why would I play the less improved version of the game? This is silly, and I'm just like, well, you know, this is more for people who want these particular games and for that retro experience, and more in particular, it's like it's probably more for people who had an NES. And they played this version of the game, you know what I mean? So they probably want that particular game, right? You know, if somebody played on the NES and loved Legend of Zelda, and it's like, well, you know, I know Link to the Past is a more improved game, but I still want to play Legend of Zelda because I have more memories associated with that game. Yeah. So I think that's part of the thing.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm probably like this is probably going to sell really well, even if only for the fact that nostalgia sells. You know, nostalgia sells. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this does, and maybe we'll see how sustained the success is.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I don't know how sustained it's going to be. I feel like it's going to probably, like, a bunch of people are going to buy it for, like, the first couple of months, and then probably sales will go down for, like, a little bit and whatnot. Like, I don't know. It will be interesting. I think it's just a pretty good deal, and if you're not into emulators. I think that's the thing that kind of sucks about this, is because emulators are such a thing that it kind of hurts this, in which why wouldn't I just use an emulator?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I totally get that. And it's like, it's more like, well, if you don't want to use an emulator, here's a more legit way to play these games. But anyway, it still looks really cool. Good on you, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Well, we have some more Nintendo news, actually. Darkrai, a new Pokemon, gets added to Pokken.
So help me out here. Is Darkrai is it a current Pokemon, or is he like brand new for Pokken?
He's current. He's not brand new.
Okay, cool. Because I've never heard of him.
He's in one of the later generations. He's like a kind of cooler ghost Pokemon.
Okay.
He might be a legendary. I don't know. I know there's one ghost Pokemon that's kind of a legendary.
Okay.
But anyway, he looked really cool. I liked how he could make duplicates of himself, and then he could trigger them to explode. Like, I thought that was really cool in the trailer.
Yeah.
And they've added, like, new maps and whatnot. I guess they also have to specify, like, they're adding, like, one Pokemon to the list of, like, you know, when you have 1,000,001 Pokemon, you know, to choose from, it's like, well, I guess this one got the lottery ticket. You know what I
mean? Yeah. He's an interesting character. Unfortunately, I still don't understand how Pokken works. So, like, as a competitive fighter, so I can't really go in depth into like his abilities or stuff like that. Who I can go in depth into is Idol, who just got revealed for Killer Instinct.
Yes, Idol looks pretty rad.
Yeah, he looks pretty interesting. So they had the trailer. The trailer was so funny. It reminded me of I don't know if you know the lore of Jiraxxus in Warcraft. Wilfred Fizzlebang and Jiraxxus. So Wilfred Fizzlebang, he's like a gnome, and he summons Jiraxxus, right? And he tries to control Jiraxxus. And then Jiraxxus is like, trifling gnome, your arrogance will be your undoing, right? And he kills Wilfred Fizzlebang because it's like, you can't control me. I'm Jiraxxus, Heir the Lord of the Burning Legion, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I saw the trailer for this, and Ken Rao, whatever his name is, he revives Idol and he's like, you know, you will obey me. And Idol is like, nah, B, smack with the stick. And I was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But in terms of his actual gameplay, he's a stance character. but he's a very unique stance character in the sense that you cannot control his stances. So his two stances are his warrior stance, where he's a really strong rushdown character, and then his mage stance, where he becomes a zoner, right?
Right.
You cannot switch. You know, he's not like Wonder Woman from Injustice. You can't activate. He has this one move where he punches the other stance's head to try to wake it up. Even that doesn't automatically make him switch. Okay. Let me slow down. So, how it works is every time you use a special move or an ender, there is a chance that he will switch stances. For every special move or ender that you use where he doesn't switch, the chance of him switching becomes more. I think the maximum is like 4. After you use 4 special moves, he will switch, right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. He also has this one special move where he punches the other head, and that increases the odds of that head waking up and switching stances. However, this move also does damage to him, right?
Right. When you punch yourself in the face, it should do damage to you.
It should do damage to you. His normals are the same across both stances. However, his mobility changes. His jump arc changes, his dashes change, and his medium normals also change in between stances, becoming more zonerish with the mage stance and, just being normals with the rushdown stance. Now, each head also builds charges for the other head. So every time, each head has a move where when they do that move, they build like a charge for when they switch to the other head. And when you are in the other head and you use up the charges, they do like the mage head, for example. When you can build up to 3 charges, every charge that you use like combines 2 of his special moves. So he has this one special move in the mage stance where he like uses lightning to zone,
right.
And then he has another special move where he summons meteors. And if you have a charge, you do both. So you do lightning and you summon the meteors at the same time. Right. On the other hand, the rushdown stance, the little charges allow you to jump cancel all your normals and like dash cancel them to do some really, really crazy and interesting combos and mix-ups. Now, in his instinct form, as you probably assumed, his instinct form wakes both heads up, and he becomes probably the best character in the game. Just looking at the gameplay demo, he becomes insane in instinct, because here's the thing, is that his special moves in both stances use the same inputs, right? Yeah. So like quarter circle forward in one stance does lightning, quarter circle forward in the other stance does like a charge move. When he wakes up in instinct form, all his special moves become combined.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, that would be devastating.
Yeah. So watching the gameplay, like his instinct form seems very, very, very strong. The character itself, I'm not so sure, because like I said, he switches randomly, right? Mm-hmm. Now, random is just never good. Especially in a competitive game, random is just never good. Now, to be fair, Faust was one of the strongest characters in Guilty Gear, and he was a completely random character. The difference, right, is that Faust had one special move that summoned random items, whereas because I was watching them demo the character, and they were showing off his zoning tools, and in the middle of showing off his zoning tools, he switched to Rushdown. So it's like, I'm like, that just doesn't seem like he will ever be a strong character, because like, first of all, the match starts, and it randomly selects which stance you start the match in.
Yeah.
So, like, that in itself is like, okay, say you're playing against Aganos, right? Who you probably want to zoom out, and the match starts and you're in rushdown stance, and it's like, well, shit. Now, to be fair, it all depends on how strong each stance is, because if the rushdown stance is strong enough to be its own character, then you can make that work, right? And you just have to adapt really quickly on the fly. I can see him being really strong, and I can see him being kind of bad. We'll see. And then there's also the fact that I don't really understand Killer Instinct, the way I understand like Guilty Gear, right? So it's hard for me to judge his abilities and be like, okay, this works really well in the engine of Killer Instinct, because I don't know, because like different video games, different fighting game engines have different elements that are really good in them, So I don't know if what he has is the kind of stuff that makes a character good in Killer Instinct.
Yes.
But he seems really interesting.
Yeah.
He seems like I don't know if you ever played Cho'Gall in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. The guy who had the 2 heads.
Yeah, he has the 2 heads, and 2 different players actually controlled him. I laughed that maybe that's what they'll do, with him, but obviously that's impossible.
No, that would be silly.
And that'd be kind of stupid. Yeah. But yeah, he does remind me a fair bit of Cho'Gall, just having the two heads, being really strong, and also having access to magic. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's pretty cool. How do you feel about him, Tanner?
He looks pretty cool. I mean, like, you do have you've pretty much explained the thing about him is that his randomness is just kind of like hard to control, and and there are other characters that have random elements, but there is sort of like control to it, like you're talking about characters that throw out random items or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like I know there's a character in Persona Ultimax who throws out random items, but they're not actually random. They have an order.
Oh.
So you can actually kind of predict what ones are gonna happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting.
What character is it?
Teddy. He throws thrandom items. Like sometimes he throws like a Coke can or like a paper airplane and stuff like that. I really liked playing him because my friend, who's even worse at fighting games than I am, he would be like, "Oh, stop throwing bullshit at me that I can't predict." But yeah, no, he seems very interesting. I really like his design. I like that. I like that his head is kind of split in half.
Yeah.
I love that about him. It makes him very good, like cool from a design aspect. And like overall, yeah, he will be interesting. I don't know if he's gonna be like high level play necessarily because he's a little bit harder to control. But I don't know. It will be interesting to see when actual professional people start to use him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he looks cool nonetheless. I really like his design.
Yeah, and I think he brings season 3 to an end actually. Because they have like as most people predicted, there's like a compilation Killer Instinct now. It's a full price $60 game. It has all the characters, all the costumes, all that good stuff. One other thing, they also revealed this thing called Shadow Lord mode, which is okay. So there's two modes. There's gonna be a single player mode, which allows you where you're trying to defeat Gargos, and you can upgrade your characters and get all extra stuff like that. And then there's gonna be you get buffs for your characters and shit like that. And then there's gonna be like Shadow Lord mode, which is a multiplayer mode where you can then play against other people that use these buffs and all that stuff. It's I doubt this mode is ever going to be competitive because like Guilty Gear has something like this MOM mode. But it's an interesting mode, and it's nice to it's nice to see them continuously supporting the game. Yeah. However, with the release of the full price Game of the Year edition, I feel like Killer Instinct is coming to an end. Yeah. Which kind of sucks, but at the same time, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, you've supported the game for a really, really long time, and it's a really, really cool game, but eventually, they probably also want to move on to something else. You know what I mean? Like, if you work on the same project for so long, you kind of want to, just want to do something else. So,
I was kind of disappointed that Season 3 focused a lot on, there were no actual new characters in Season 3, It was 3 guest characters and a bunch of returning characters. So that was kind of disappointing because I liked, like, you look at Season 2, they had Kanra, they had Omen, they had Aganos, they had Hisako, they had Arya, so some really cool brand new characters. And then you look at what's her name, Sadira, but then Season 3 went full on old school and guest characters, which kind of sucked from an aesthetic point of view. However, all the characters brought something new gameplay wise, so I don't. It's like
if we're comparing seasons, like Season 2 DLC was a lot better than Season 3.
Yeah. But Season 3 was still cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I say this every time we talk about Killer Instinct, but I'm so sad that I'll probably never get to play this game. It makes me so angry with Microsoft that this game never came out on the Xbox 360.
Yeah. Like, or not even on the not even on the 360. Just I wish it was multi-platform.
That's
no joke. I would totally have bought this game. Yes, I totally would have bought this game
I was just gonna let that go.
Yeah, you were gonna let that go, but I was like, no, I have to correct myself because you're gonna make fun of me after the recording's over.
Same here. I would have definitely got this game. Gotten.
Hey, we both don't know how to talk. Perfect.
No. I was just okay. I mean, both were.
It's like now we don't want to say anything because we're just waiting for one of us to fuck up.
Anyway, I'll definitely got this game on if I had an Xbox One or if it was on PS4. But hey, you know what? Shit happens. Moving on to a game that I can get on PS4. Dizzy got announced for Guilty Gear Xrd. It was so funny because after the grand finals of at EVO. Mm-hmm. The dude comes on stage and he's like, okay, you guys have been waiting for this. I mean, we all know she's coming. Mm-hmm. So here's a trailer. And then they reveal Dizzy. She's really cute. They added some really cute animations to her. Because, like, Dizzy's thing, she has the two wings. I forget their name, but one is, like, the devil and one is an angel. Yeah. And, like, her insta-kill, for example, the devil starts charging up this really powerful beam. And then Dizzy's like, no! And she tackles him. And then the beam just misses at the last second. But the person looks back at the explosion and then looks at Dizzy and just surrenders. Because like normally when you do an insta kill, it's like destroy, but with Dizzy, it's like surrender. But yeah, overall, I mean, she's Dizzy. You know, they kept most of her old stuff. She's Dizzy and she's completely free. That's one thing. They also added an alternate costume. Well, no, they added Elfelt's old costume, so you can buy it for like with world dollars. You can unlock it in the game with world dollars. It gives her back her old costume and her old intro, because they changed her intro in this game. Then they also patched the game, which is really funny because they patched it right after EVO, and then like because the grand finals was Sin versus Johnny, and then the patch notes come out and Sin and Johnny get nerfed. Shit, and I'm sure. And then people are probably sitting there like, really, we could have used these patch notes like literally half an hour earlier.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think that was the right way to do it because, like, you know, like leading up to EVO, this was the version of the game that everybody had been playing, so it wouldn't have been fair if they had released a patch right before EVO and then everybody had to start adapting.
Yeah,
so this was the right way to do it. Like literally after EVO, they released a patch, and my girl Alpha got nerfed so badly, so I'm kind of sad. But it was expected. She was a really strong character. Yeah. So like realistically speaking, I expected this. What made me sad was that my other two characters, Potemkin and Ramlethal, who were both really bad, barely got anything. So I'm kind of pissed about that, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Because that was why I spread myself out like that. I was like, okay, I'll play one of the best characters in the game, and I'll play one of the worst characters in the game. So whenever a patch comes out, I'll usually, I'll meet in the middle.
Right, exactly.
One of my characters will get buffed and one will get nerfed. Apparently, I was wrong, and all my characters barely got anything this patch. Apparently, there's going to be another patch coming in the fall, so we'll see. Maybe Potemkin will finally become an actual character. But yeah. So that was the Guilty Gear stuff. Have you? Okay, no, you don't own Guilty Gear. I was gonna say, have you tried out Dizzy? What do you think about her? Did you watch any like trailers for Dizzy?
I watched a little bit, but yeah, that like basically everything you said. Like, I kind of agree with. Like, there's not much more that I can say.
Okay, so let's move on to the other thing. A little bit much bigger news. They announced that there's going to be EVO Japan. So this is going to be like an offshoot of the main EVO that happens in North America every July. There's going to be another hopefully annual EVO that happens in Japan. And we don't have too much info about it, but we're going to get more info at Tokyo Game Show.
Yes.
And this is going to be so interesting because, for me, what interests me the most about this is the selection of games. So, Street Fighter V is going to be at EVO in Japan. Street Fighter V is going to be at every single, EVO, period, right? But there's other games that are mainstays at EVO that are American games. Killer Instinct is not going to be at EVO in Japan, nor is Marvel.
Okay.
Like Smash. I don't think Smash is very big in Japan. Pokken, on the other hand, I think is pretty big in Japan.
Okay.
What's this thing called? There's that other game, Dissidia. the city of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Like I'm interested to see how the game lists.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because that's a good point. Is that like this is actually really cool because in the sense like a lot of the maybe Japanese, very very Japanese fighters that you don't really get to see that often will actually get to see at Evo. Which would be pretty
because like of the 8 main stage games, 6 of them are probably not going to be at Evo. Mortal Kombat's definitely not going to be at Japan. Mm-hmm. Nor is probably Smash or Smash Melee and 4. Marvel is definitely not going to be there. So you've got Street Fighter, you've got Guilty Gear, and I don't know how big Tekken is in Japan. I mean, if it was Evo Korea, then Tekken would definitely be there. But I don't know how big Tekken is.
I feel like Tekken would probably be in Japan. I don't know.
Yeah, probably, especially since Tekken 7 will be brand new.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's honestly what I'm most excited to see right now is the difference in the slate of games. I'm also really curious to see because I mean, like, it's funny because like Japan comes, like so many Japanese players come to Evo that in terms of like the Guilty Gear top 8 of Evo Japan is probably going to be very similar to the Guilty Gear top 8 of Evo North America.
Yeah. Right.
It's probably not going to be that much difference. But yeah, I'm really, really curious to see.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I like the idea of having 2 different rosters of games. Because we're going to get a lot more variety because of this.
Sorry, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah.
And it's also like we're spreading, we're making things more international now, right? Because like I'm 100% sure a bunch of Americans are going to go to Evo in Japan because like it's an annual thing in Japan where like Evo time people like they organize flights and stuff like that, and then they fly over. And they have translators and people like that come with them, and it's like a big event every year,
Exactly.
So I'm 100% sure it's going to become a big event in North America now because there's like certain Japanese tournaments like SVO,
right?
That some Americans used to go to, but none of them are as big as Evo.
Yeah.
So now with this, we're gonna see like a bigger flock of Americans flying out to Japan, and it's going to be interesting to see how they perform. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to learn more at TGS.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting when we get a lot more details about this. But overall, I think it's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. So as the viewers have probably deduced at this point, Evo happened this past weekend, and just wanted to give our overall thoughts about it. You want to go first, Tanner?
I thought it was pretty good. It was a fun little thing. While I was trading the Ancient Vita for my copy of Dark Souls, I met Fawaz while he was at an Evo party. So I sat down and stayed for a bit, and I got to watch Evo with a bunch of his friends, I guess, or whatnot. Associates. And no, it was a lot of fun. We basically watched the Marvel 3. So that was a lot. I will admit though, I feel like watching Evo is way more fun watching it with friends. You know what I mean? Like most of my Evo experience is like because most of my friends other than you aren't really into fighting games. So I usually watch it like on the live streams or whatnot, and I get enjoyment from seeing the crowd, right?
Yeah.
But it's way more fun to watch it in a group of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is way more interesting, and I had a lot of fun. I stayed for the Marvel, but I had to leave for a couple reasons. Well, the other reason I left was because I had been up at 6 o'clock and I hadn't had any food, and it was like 5 o'clock. So I was like, I'm about to die. I need to go home.
That's funny. But yeah, no, I completely agree. It's sorry, you were about to say something.
Oh, I was just sorry. And the other thing I was just gonna say that I thought it was kind of weird though. I think one of your friends pointed this out. Is like after every match there would be like a weird pause in which they would just show the Evo logo, and it's like they're setting up, to set up for the next game, right? And it's kind of weird because I felt like they couldn't like just get some B-roll or just have a camera kind of show the crowd or something like that, or just something maybe a little bit more interesting than just the flat logo. And I don't know. I thought that was weird.
For sure. That was kind of weird. But yeah, I completely agree. It's really fun watching these things with people. Like, cause like my friends, they were betting on matches and stuff like that, and like everybody's talking shit. Like, okay, I got this guy, and then this guy wins. It really brings out the hype. It really brings the hype. When something really crazy happens and you're spazzing out by yourself at home, it's not the same as when you're in a room of like 40 people, and then that same thing happens, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I completely agree. Evo was pretty cool this year. I didn't watch any of the pools. I rarely ever watch. The only pools I watch are for Guilty Gear. I just like how I do is I watch the pools for Guilty Gear, and then I watch the last day. I watch a couple of games. So I watched Marvel. I didn't actually plan to watch Marvel, but I got there and Marvel was on, and I'm really glad I did because Marvel was really, really good this year. Chris G finally wins. Finally won one. Like, Chris G was one of the best Marvel players. He had a really good year in like 2012, I think, where he won almost every single tournament except Evo. And he never won Evo, and it was just weird because for like a full year he was one of the most dominant players in Marvel, but he never won Evo. So I was really happy for him that he finally got it. So yeah, Marvel was hype. I didn't watch Smash. When Smash started, I went back home. I watched Street Fighter V though. It wasn't very hype, if I'm being completely honest with myself. But part of the problem was that I don't like a lot of the characters that made top 8. There were 3 Nashes in top 8. I hate watching Nash. There were 2 Chun-Li's in top 8. I hate watching Chun-Li. There was a Ken. I like Ken, but there was only one Ken. One Armika. I love me some Armika, so I watched Winners Finals because the Armika made Winners Finals. And then there was one other character I don't really care to remember right now. But that was part of what killed the vibe for me. First of all, there was a lot of mirror matches. Nash versus Nash, and then Chun-Li versus Chun-Li, and then Nash versus Nash again. So that was kind of boring. But overall, like, Street Fighter Top 8 was fine. One funny thing about Grand Finals, though. Oh, first of all, Grand Finals was broadcasted on ESPN2, right?
Yeah.
One really funny thing about Grand Finals is that Fudo, who was the Armika player, was forced to change his costume because ESPN deemed the costume that he had on originally too lewd.
Wait, what costume did he have?
He put on the default Armika costume, the one with like the holes all over it, and he had to switch after the first match to the story costume because ESPN were like, dude, that costume is too lewd.
You mean the original costume that you mean like just the auto costume? Like the
the auto costume with all the holes in it and all that stuff.
Wow, that's like, don't blame him, blame freaking Capcom.
Yeah, but I guess at that point it's like, well, they can't show. I mean, that was the best thing they could do under those circumstances, right?
I'm just waiting for. Oh yeah, I'll put on the costume, but then I'm gonna do her critical arts.
That was exactly.
That would have been the best.
I was like, oh my god! Thank God he didn't hit a single critical art because ESPN would have shut down the entire broadcast. Like, it would have been like too lewd. Shut it down. Yo, imagine if it had been the old critical art where she actually smacks her bum before she. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, like overall, the grand finals was pretty cool. I wasn't happy with who won. I'm not gonna get into who won here. Although
I really wanted Long Isle. I really wanted Long Isle Joe to win.
Yeah. He didn't make it, but he did pretty well for himself. All things considered, because like Street Fighter Japan is really good at Street Fighter, and he was the only American that made top 8, and he didn't just go one and done. Because what usually happens is an American makes top 8 in losers, and then they lose their first match, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won his first match. He lost his second match, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the broadcast on ESPN, I think it was relatively successful. Bill Walton, who's like a basketball legend, but apparently he's really big into competitive fighting games because he did a bunch of the promo for it. He had a video on Twitter and he was hyping it up. He actually sounded like he was hyping it up. It wasn't like
like phoned in or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm hired to do this, so I'm going to do it. He was like, yo, Street Fighter is about to start. If you aren't here right now, now to be fair, Bill Walton always looks happy. Like, if you just like Google image Bill Walton right now, and I guarantee all the pictures you find are going to be of him with a big smile on his face. That's just Bill Walton. He's a happy guy. So he might have even been mad. Yeah, we just couldn't tell. So there is that. But But overall, it was pretty cool. Apparently, it drew like 200,000 viewers on ESPN. So I don't know how good that is because I don't really know what ESPN average is.
Yeah.
That sounds good, I guess.
Good, yeah.
But I don't really know. I can't quantify it. So any of our viewers who actually watches ESPN and knows, please let us know in the comment section below. But yeah. Overall, it's a really good Evo. I'm excited for next year.
Yeah.
I was kind of disappointed nothing really big got announced because I was hoping for Soul Calibur. I was hoping for a new Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
Okay, that was kind of a pipe dream. Realistically speaking, what I was hoping would get announced was that Riot Games bought this video game company. I forget what they're called, but it was a Seth Killian led video game company, and they bought them like last year or maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. So I was hoping, because people are speculating that they're working on a video game for Riot Games. Riot Games are people behind League of Legends, for the 3 people that don't know.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that they would announce what game they're working on, because like this isn't me speculating. They are working on something. So I was hoping they would reveal it at Evo. They didn't, so that made me kind of sad. But there's always next year.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. I think my favorite moment was watching Sonic Fox and Tekken Master in the MKX, and Sonic Fox was doing really, really good overall in the tournament, and he finally met someone who was like, really, really like, capable of stopping him from taking it, and that was Tekken Master. And it was amazing to see the commenters go, oh, what's Sonic Fox going to do? He's starting to lose. It seems like he's starting to shake. And Sonic Fox, he didn't take off this really crazy hat the entire time. And then, like, the last couple of matches, he takes it off. And the commenters go, oh, shit, he took the hat off, folks. He took the hat off. Things are about to get serious. Like, that was my favorite moment.
That is pretty funny. That's so anime.
And you know what the best part was? Is that when he did take his hat off, he actually got better. Like, he actually won a bunch of matches. It was like, oh, that's the best.
Oh yeah, Sonic Fox doesn't mess around. He's one of the reasons why I don't even bother watching MK anymore, because he just wins all the time, and it's not even close.
Well, it got pretty close. It got pretty close this time. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it was worth the watch. I will say that it was worth the watch, and the hat thing was the best.
Yeah. So I guess in summary, we Evo was pretty good this year. So let's get to our question of the day.
Yeah.
It's just a question of the day comes from J Street. Spoiler alert.
Hey.
So he says, why do you think it's so hard for the average gamer to adapt to team-based tactics in team-based games? Smite, Overwatch, League of Legends, etc., etc. We often joke about the stupidity of some gamers in these, just like you pointed out how people run from the healer in Overwatch. But what is the root cause, at least in your opinion, of it? So you want to go first, Hannah? Because I've got quite a rant in regards to this.
Sure. Well, I think it's a couple things. One is that a lot of people who play team-based games, unfortunately, don't really know how to play team-based games. And I think part of that problem, it stems from the Call of Duty problem, in which you're playing the game and you don't even know your team exists, or you don't even care. You're there to get kills, to rank up your kill streak, and you are essentially, you want to be the guy who's like, I'm the reason we won the match, right? Mm-hmm. There's too much of that mentality, so you never get, or it's like, you never get the idea where I'm going to team up with this guy and we're going to kick ass. Like, that's the big problem, is you don't really get that mentality as often. Like, obviously it does show up, but the problem is that the typical player, they get into that Call of Duty mindset where it's like, I'm going to play solo, I'm going to be the lone wolf, and I'm going to make our team win, and it's going to be all me. And I think that's part of the problem. I think another problem is that another problem is that people also, they want to play certain roles. Like, the Overwatch is a good example in which, the game tells you that you should try and spread your ability to take on different roles, but there's certain people where it's like, no, I have to play attack, I have to play like Genji, I have to play Tracer, and the ability to not switch into different roles like cripples your understanding of how these different roles can help you, or how different comps and whatnot can assist you. Like, I know there's some people that it's like, oh, I have to play mid when I'm playing League of Legends because that's my lane. And when they get forced into a different lane, they just go, oh, well, fuck this, right? And I'm just like, well, that's not fair. You should be able to adjust and adapt. And I think it's just this. I think the biggest root of the problem is this idea: I want to do one thing and one thing only in a team-based game. And it's like, when you're playing a team-based game, that's not really the point. The whole point of a team-based game is playing as a team.
Yes.
And if you may excel at that one role, for sure, but you should be able to understand and at least be able to play off the other roles just as effectively as your own. And I think that's a big problem, is that people sort of get into these like one role mindsets, and they just can't break out of it. And I think that's sort of the root of the problem, in my opinion, when I think of games like League of Legends or Overwatch. They just refuse to adapt to certain roles, or they just don't. They have this one mindset of what they're going to do, and they don't change their strategy. And I feel that it just comes back to like people just don't want to adapt their strategy. They have their one strategy and they're going to do it, and even though it's not working, they're going to continue to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the root of the problem, though, is people not being able to change roles or understand how other roles in their team can make them better. That's my answer, I guess. What about you?
Okay. So let me see. Where do I start? Okay. So I'm going to focus on Overwatch here. And so I completely agree with everything you said. So I'm just gonna add to that. Like part of the problem is that a lot of people don't understand. They don't look at it as 6 versus 6. They look at it as me versus 6, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, they're trying to carry. Like, it's not their intention. They're not intentionally trying to carry, but they don't take their teammates into consideration. Mm-hmm. Like, the best example of this is Mei. There's so many times when Mei throws up an ice wall that hurts her team. Mm-hmm. And you can just, like, the inability to think critically of how this ice wall is going to affect my teammates. Like for example, I leapt into a group of people with Winston, because that's what Winston is supposed to do. He's supposed to leap into the enemies. I leapt into them, I dropped my bubble, and I did my little shock thing. Mm-hmm. Then I waited as my leap was about to come off cooldown. I tried to leap back into my teammates. However, I may have thrown up an ice wall, locking me in with the enemies. This Mei actually saw me in there with the enemies. Yeah. But no, just to stop him from getting hit by a couple bullets, he threw up an ice wall that killed me. And that right there is what I mean. People just do not think about how their actions affect the other teammates. Now, the other thing that you mentioned is people not playing multiple characters. I agree with everything you said, but then to add to that, one of the elements that playing other characters teaches you is how to help your teammate when they're playing other characters, right? Like, I saw this one video of a, I can't remember, it was a Zarya doing a very good job of protecting the Mercy. And one person commented that you can tell this Zarya has played Mercy before. And that right there, just like when you play that character, you understand. You understand how all the little frustrating things that your teammates do, and then you try your best. And like a lot of times, teammates don't even do this stuff on purpose, right? They just don't understand. Because, like, they don't understand how the other characters work. So they don't understand how their actions are hurting their teammates, right? So that's the other thing. Then the main thing, though, I feel is just that, like, people are not console players anyway. But this applies to people. Some people are just not used to playing team-based games. Like, the closest thing is, like, Gears of War. But Gears of War is not a team-based game in the same sense of Overwatch, right? Because in Gears of War, it's actually, you know, it's 5v5, but it's like, you don't support each other, you know? Like, Team Deathmatch in Halo, it's just, you know, like, your job is to kill the other team.
Yeah.
You know,
it's more, because there's less, like, you know, support, there's less, like, you know, stuff like that. And something like Halo, it's more like you're working as a team, but more in a sense to assist each other to get kills. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly. There's not as many things like objectives or whatnot. And you could argue that there's still like team-based things in Halo, like getting a vehicle to pick up like a flag or whatnot and stuff like that. And you can tell you can tell in certain games like that where it's like, yeah, even in a game where, like Halo, where it's like, okay, maybe, just getting the kills is good enough. Like, there's other modes in those games where, like, no, getting the kills isn't just the getting enough. Getting the vehicle to the right point so you can pick up the guy with the flag is a good point. Is a good skill to have, and some people don't even think about that.
Yeah, but then, like Halo, all the other popular shooters on consoles, there's never been a shooter this popular on consoles that is this focused on team-based play.
Yes.
At least not that I can think of, right?
Right.
So then you have those people, and that's the reason. That's the reason why, you hop into a match and everybody just picks DPS, because DPS it's closer to their comfort zone, right?
Yes.
Whereas tanks and healers and supports, all these other characters require them to move out of this comfort zone and do stuff that, like you finish a game and you don't have a lot of kills, but you've done an amazing job with Reinhardt because you blocked 30,000 damage with your shield. You play Mercy, you're not going to get a lot of kills. I mean, if you play any healer that isn't Zenyatta, you're not going to get a lot of kills, but you are still very valuable to your team because you heal them and you speed boost them with Lucio. And these characters force people to think outside of that shooter box, so people just they don't touch these characters, and then when they do, they don't know how to play them. Right? Yeah. So these are the different levels, right? So you have on the first level, you have those people who are not bad, they're not stupid, they just don't understand how the other characters work because they've just never played those other characters. So they don't know how to help those characters, and they don't understand how they're hurting those characters. Then you have the next level below that, who are the people that just don't understand how team-based games work. And as a result, they gravitate towards their DPSs and shit like that. Then you have the people who are just idiots. Just straight up idiots. Every game has them, but it's more profound in a game like Overwatch because you are very reliant on your teammates, right? One of the biggest tips I have for people who play Overwatch is don't try to do everything. There's no character in the game that can do everything. Yeah. That is why it's 6 versus 6. There's certain characters on the other team that you just cannot deal with as whoever you are playing. If you're playing Junkrat and there's a Pharah on the other team, you cannot deal with the Pharah. You have to rely on your teammates to do it. Like if you're playing 76 and there's a Roadhog on the other team, good luck. Yeah, good luck. Good luck killing that Roadhog, right? You're going to have to rely on your Reaper. Like if you're a Mercy, you rely on your Reinhardt to protect you, or your Zarya, or your tanks, So that's the thing, right? And then when you now have teammates that are idiots, it makes it very difficult. It's more profound in this game because when that idiot is the Reinhardt, then you're like, oh my god, we have no time. We have no one mitigated damage. Whereas in Gears of War, if just one of your teammates was just bad, it's like, okay, cool, he's getting killed, but he's not hurting us. He's just getting killed. Yeah. Whereas when your Mercy's an idiot, you're not getting any heals anymore. You're relying on your Mercy for heals. You're relying on your Reinhardt to tank. You're relying on your DP. Like, I've played games with Lucio where I was number 1 in kills. That should never happen.
Yeah, I've had games with Mercy where I've had the same thing. Where why do I have 7 kills?
It's like, what are my DPSs doing? Like, I mean, sure, with Zenyatta this happens a lot. Like, I played games where I finished with 4 to 5 gold medals in Zenyatta. Now, to be fair, it's very easy to do with Zenyatta. Because of his design, it's very easy to do. But like with Lucio, I've had games where I was gold in Olymps, and I'm like, that should never happen. That should absolutely never happen with Lucio. Like, what are my DPSs doing? So yeah, it's more profound. So I don't think. So I guess in summary, I don't think it's necessarily that it's hard for the average. Okay, no, that's not true. So yeah, all the stuff I said still stands, right? But then on top of that, I feel like it's gamers. There will always be stupid gamers, no matter what game you play, right? It is just more profound in a game. It is more pronounced in a game like Overwatch because of the team-based, because of how heavily you rely on, in games like Overwatch, Smite, League of Legends, because of how heavily you rely on your teammates,
Like one bad teammate can make the difference between a win and a loss. Like, it's much
You know, you have one bad teammate in Halo, and it's not that big of a deal. You don't notice. You don't even notice it that much in Halo. You just look at the kill feed, and you look at the scoreboard, and you're like, oh my god, this guy is 0-5. You know, but you don't notice it as much because you're not as reliant on your teammates, right? But in Overwatch, in League, in Smite, it really, really hurts. So that's pretty much how I feel about it.
Yeah. I think, it just I feel like the root cause in a lot of ways is just people not being able to adapt or understand different roles. I think that's just the root cause in general. But yeah, no, good question, great question, J Streets.
Very good question.
So if you have a question, don't forget to leave it in the comment section, and we'll answer it in the next podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, this was William Liberty and
Boaz Muhammad Yusuf.
See you guys next time.